Hey people. As I'm making this, I am watching the Trump Biden debate. I've just paused the screen actually. Probably about 20 minutes left. I can't really see the tone, the nature of this debate changing much, i.e., for much more to be added. Um, but honestly, I mean, I didn't even know if I was going to watch this, to be quite honest. I'm a political. I watch politics, current affairs pretty closely. And a US presidential debate is definitely something that I would tune into. And right enough, I've watched this one. But as I expected, it's a bit of a, to use colourful language, an SHIT show. Um, I noticed there's no studio audience. It's moderated by Dana Bash and Jake Tapper of CNN in Atlanta, but there's no studio audience. Now, I wonder, is that precisely because of the divisive nature of this year's event? I don't know if the next contest is going to be town hall style or what, the next debate. Um, I'm not really sure what the reason for that was. They never explained that. Some important questions brought up about Roe v. Wade, the Ukraine war, and so on, the sort of questions you would expect Israel and Gaza. Um, but I think this is the worst choice America's ever had. I do believe that. Choice between a candidate on the Democratic side who really, really looks his age and a convicted criminal on the Republican side, who, in my view, is toxic. Now, I'll be completely honest, I think Trump's probably won the debate simply because he sounds younger. I mean, there's optics here, and Trump simply looks younger. I mean, this is not to say that he doesn't have senior moments as well. He very clearly does, and there's been numerous times, and Trump has forgotten things and made gaffes. Um, he's only what 4 years younger than Biden, but looks significantly younger. Um, the truth of the matter is, Joe Biden looks. I don't want to be crude about it, but he looks like an elderly man who's kind of wandered out of the nursing home. And I don't say that flippantly. I think it's a big problem for American democracy. And I really think after this year's event, Congress needs to do something to have some sort of rule about running for the presidency, whereby candidates on both sides, their mental faculties are checked. Um, I mean, I don't believe either of these men are particularly fit for the White House. I think in terms of policies, Biden is far, far superior to Trump. I think I believe in records, Biden is superior to Trump, and Biden's by no means a great president. But I do think that this thing about his age, it's not a trivial matter. And I think it's actually quite selfish of Biden to run. He chose to run rather than making way for a younger candidate. Now, it doesn't have to be Kamala Harris. She's not particularly popular. Dean Phillips wasn't a well known figure, but maybe he could have been. Everyone has to start somewhere. Everyone has to. Maybe he could have made his mark. Who knows? But he was denied the opportunity of doing so, and he was sort of deemed to be like a traitor to the Democratic Party. Um, I think this dogma, this attachment to one, I mean, one thing could be said about Biden's age. He has got a lot of experience. He's extensive experience, but he is just, it's not, for me, it's not that he's 81. It's the fact he looks 81 and he sounds 81. And I think more often than not, his memory is going. Tonight, he's looked uncomfortable. He's just said the Paris Peace Accord when he meant the Paris Climate Accord. He did correct himself, but it's just bad optics. Trump has been um, a bit more assertive. However, he's evading questions and he's a compulsive liar. He told barefaced lies throughout the night about his record, about things he said, things that are absolutely from the horse's mouth, not smears by Biden or the Democrats or the left. Things that, if you look at videos, are directly from Trump's own mouth. Um, so I'm disheartened because I think Trump's awful. And I would have liked a stronger Democratic candidate, a younger candidate, frankly, to hold Trump properly to account now. Yes, Biden's rebutted him. Yes, Biden has pointed things out, but I just think the optics don't look good. Um, and it has to be said, Trump had a few points on the border, for example. This is Economist from this February. Um, how the border could cost Biden the election. The thing is, I think Trump's position on Russia and Ukraine is abhorrent, and I'll get into that in a minute. But in Europe, we do have to remember that there is an ocean between the war in Ukraine and the United States. And for many Americans, I mean, if you're living in Texas or Arizona, quite honestly, you are going to be a lot more concerned about border security than what's happening thousands of miles away in the battlefield of Ukraine. Fair enough. I don't begrudge them that. Um, and the fact is, the Democrats are seen as soft on this. Biden's seen as soft on this, and his responses were weak on that question. A lot of Trump's answers are weak as well because he's lying about things. But um, I really, really wish Democrats had a better candidate, a younger candidate, a candidate who was more assertive and could. I mean, if you had someone like Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, they would destroy Trump. Unfortunately, Joe Biden, I don't think he's an awful president. Um, he'll probably rank as a mediocre president. Um, but it's just the optics don't look good. So unfortunately, this debate won't help. I mean, I don't know how much debates have in terms of voting intentions. Certainly here, I don't think they have a great deal of influence in terms of how people vote. If we look at the Sunak Starmer debate last night from Nottingham, are the people going to be crossing the Rexes on their ballots based on what they saw last night? Maybe some. I don't think many. Um, it's just a bizarre situation we're in. It's historic in the sense that it's the first time a former president has debated a current president in a presidential debate. There has been previous occasions where former presidents have ran, i.e. Grover Cleveland um, and Teddy Roosevelt, but that was before the era of televised debates. So it's historic, but I wouldn't say it's particularly. There hasn't been any. I mean, obviously these guys don't like each other. Um, but it hasn't really. I suppose one thing could be said for it. It hasn't went to the gutter completely. There has been a lot of personalised attacks, but it hasn't. Um, I mean, honestly, with the way things are in America right now, it's almost surprising they weren't swinging blows at one another. Maybe that's why they didn't have the audience because you would have had Trump people, shouting down Biden. You would have maybe had Biden people shouting down Trump. So it wouldn't have been. That's probably a good idea, but shows where America is. Um, So I don't want to say it, but I think Trump's won this. He doesn't deserve to. I think he's a compulsive liar. I think he's. I mean, he calls Biden the worst president ever. He's the worst president ever. He is the only president, and Biden's right about this. You know, the January 6th thing, Republicans say it's exaggerated. There's too much made of that. What about the chaos in Democrat-run cities? The thing about January the 6th was you had a sitting president basically inciting insurrection. Because of conspiracy theories, because he was a sore loser. And in the history of America, it's by no means even close to, the most violent events. And it has to be remembered 30 people roughly died during the George Floyd riots, um, many in Democrat run cities. But the problem with January the 6th is Trump incidentally has praised those people, so for him to claim that he wasn't inciting it, even if he wasn't, which is, I think, nonsense, because he's stoking up the conspiracy theories behind it. But he has exonerated those people. He's called them great patriots. If that doesn't show how toxic this man's thinking is, I don't know what will. Um, hell, Jefferson Davis didn't even get tricked into the White House, excuse me, into the Capitol building. Um, but on Russia and Ukraine, I said I'd come back to that. Donald Trump, on the day of the invasion, said that's a genius move by Putin. Now, he claimed Putin would never have invaded Ukraine had he been president. There's no evidence of that. There's no proof of that. There's no way to know that. It's pure, absolute speculation that Trump cannot prove. Um, Oh, Putin wouldn't have invaded if I was president. I think he would have. I think Putin's relentless obsession with Ukraine. I don't think it would have made a difference actually who was in the White House. I don't think that was a factor in the invasion of Ukraine. Um, because remember, Putin done a lot of aggressive things when Trump was president as well. He continued to arm the Assad dictatorship in Syria. Indeed, Salisbury happened on Trump's watch. Granted, it wasn't against America, but it happened on Trump's watch. So this idea that Putin is scared of Trump is nonsense. Trump has praised Putin. Trump, like Nigel Farage, is a Putin admirer. There's something about the right these days. In fact, I saw a piece in the Eye how this new right is actually curiously unpatriotic in their admiration for foreign dictators. Um, Reagan and Thatcher would be turning in their graves. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I don't know. It's also the earliest debate ever. I don't know why they've picked it this early in June. Usually presidential debates are, I think, late July at the earliest. So it's a strangely early time to do it. Um, Few memorable comments. Biden says you have the morals of an alley cat. Regarding Trump's criminal conviction. Trump threw back his son's criminal conviction. It's just I don't know. What one thing we need to be clear about: American politics has never been squeaky clean. Never. I mean, Nixon and Kennedy. That campaign may seem more civilized, but politics is always rough and ready. But I do think America is in a very, very bad way, and I think it's going to be a problem whichever of these men get back in. That's why I think it's an awful choice. With Biden, I think his policies are good mostly, but his age is a factor. It really is. He's weak. He's a weak leader because he would give Putin what he wants. Um, and domestically, he has failed. It's something that doesn't come up enough, but he has done absolutely nothing about the problem of gun violence. He attacks Biden and Democrats about crime. Trump done nothing about gun violence. Some of the worst massacres in American history happened on his watch, like the Las Vegas massacre, for example, happened on Trump's watch. It's continued to happen on Biden's watch as well, but that's only because Republicans in Congress are gutless when it comes to the NRA. Um, Trump's record on gun violence is appalling. It's weak. Amounts to being soft on crime as far as I'm concerned. But it has to be said the Democrats' record on crime, Democrat run cities are crime ridden. There's no getting around that. So neither party can shout on this subject. Um, but yeah, the combined age of these guys is 160 roughly, and it shows. I just think it's not an inspiring choice. Even if you look back to 1996, Bob Dole versus Bill Clinton, Bob Dole was an elderly man at the time in his 70s, but he looked a lot younger than these guys. Well, early 70s he was then. Um, Reagan and Carter, it's just one just gets the impression: are they the candidates? I mean, I think if I had a choice, I would reluctantly choose Biden, but I am quite concerned about his age. I don't think it's a small matter when he has access to nuclear codes and he'll have advisors around him, but I don't think he should have ran, quite frankly. He could have done one term and pointed to achievements and then be content with that. I think it was selfish to run, quite frankly. I don't know if at this point, after this debate, it's almost impossible to conceive a situation where he won't continue to run now. They were talking about these mechanisms in the convention. I don't think that'll happen. I think he will be the candidate. Um, and I think it's a serious mistake. Anyway, we'll wrap this up.